since disappointingly for all of the work we're going to do here, there's only one mark available, but we won't know that at the time. This is ISA 38. You're dealing with intangible assets. I know we haven't specifically talked about intangible assets yet, but we have a story where we bought patents for 10, and we have we've incurred costs of 7, and we've got a working prototype of 4, and we have got condition getting it into sale of 3, and we have got marketing costs of 2, and they have all been capitalized. All of these have been capitalized. Now, strictly speaking, ISA 38 does allow you to capitalize if you buy the intangible asset, or if you develop the intangible asset, if it is development expenditure. If it's research, if it's original investigation, must be expensed. So we can only capitalize if we buy, or we can only capitalize our own revenue expenditure on development. So we've got to make 5 pretty quick decisions. Each time they have capitalized, 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 capitalized. Now that may be right or that may be wrong. To the extent that it's wrong, we'll need to write it off. So we've got 5 quick decisions to make. If you buy patents for 10, are you able to capitalize that? Yes or no? Yes. You have spent 7 investigating. So you've completed an investigation phase at a cost of 7. Now, does that imply to you research or development? So write it off. That is a wrong treatment. Yeah, that needs to be written off. Number 4. 4 million. What is the 4 million being spent on? The 4 million has been spent on a working prototype. So you're developing and you're creating the first type, a working prototype. Would you think of that as research or development? Development. Yeah, I think it's development. It's the final stage. It's not original investigation, it's the final stage. Then you're spending 3 million, and in order to put the product into a condition for sale, a further 3 million was spent. So we've got a defined project, we're right at the end of it. I would be happy to capitalize that cost. What about the marketing costs? Expense. So these are the 2 which are wrong. So we have to write off the 7 and the 2. We're having to write off the 9. That means we are reducing our retained earnings by 5, and that means we are reducing we're reducing our intangible assets, and we are reducing our retained earnings by 9. So that is the adjustment. That's effectively what I would show as my working. It's to do with the intangible. It's not the neatest, but it's effectively referenced. It's effectively referenced. It's only worth a mark. I am looking at my intangible asset. I am now effectively writing off 9, and I am referencing that also to note number 5. So we have there a story, and in retained earnings we have another story, because in retained earnings there is the extra story here for note number 5. For note number 5, we have the write-off of the intangible. Anything that will go to P&L ends up going into retained earnings. Anything that goes to other components of equity ends up appearing in our anything that goes in OCI, other comprehensive income, goes in other components of equity. Right, which one do you want me to look at next? Number 4 or number 6? 6. I'm hearing 6 the loudest. That is, I think, a good decision. Mini intends to dispose of a major line of the parent's business. At the date, the held for sale criteria were met, and the assets have a carrying amount of as following: 49, 18, and 3, and it is anticipated that Mini will realise 30 million for the sale of the business. No adjustments have been made. If you have held for sale, cease depreciation. If you have held for, but we haven't got a depreciation story there. What else do we have to do? The assets are going to be held for sale. Yeah? So we need to present them as a current. Yeah? We need to remove them and show them as held for sale assets, and I suppose actually held for sale liabilities. But they are to be removed. What else are we going to do? How much are we going to sell them for? 30. Are we going to be making a profit or loss on this sale? So we should anticipate that loss. Yeah? We're going to write down the assets to the fair value less cost to sell. So there are three basic things that we do when we know that we have a disposal group that is held for sale. Yeah? We cease to depreciate on the PPE because our primary source of recovering the asset is not through use. Our primary source of recovering from the PPE is through disposal. So we cease depreciation. Secondly, if there is going to be a loss, anticipate that loss. Write the asset down to the fair value less cost to sell. And thirdly, presentation. Don't show it as PPE. Don't show it positively, proactively, as held for sale. So, this is what I would do. I would look at the carrying value of my assets at 49, at 18, and 3, and then I would compare this to the fair value less cost to sell, and the fair value less cost to sell is 30, and this would then give me a loss, and I would take that loss to retained earnings in working 5. So how much do these three numbers add up to? Really? Really? Some are saying 70 and some are saying 64, and I'm confused. This is PPE. This is infantry. What does this 3 represent? Liabilities. Yeah. So they add up to 64. So the amount of the loss we've got is 34. So the amount of the loss we've got is 34. So in my retained earnings, I can take here 34. Ka-ching! Another mark. Ka-ching! Yeah. Note number 6. I've got a loss on the disposal group. I've got a loss on the disposal group. Ka-ching! Got a loss on the disposal group. So what I've now got to do is to write my assets down. So my assets are effectively, I've got to remove the 49, I've got to remove the 18, and effectively I've got to remove the 3 and then bring in effectively the amount left. So back I go, back I go, back I go. Here I am, I'm looking at my balance sheet, I'm trying to find my balance sheet. Where is my balance sheet? Coming balance sheet, there is my balance sheet. And I'm going to say here, note number 6, I'm going to remove the held for sale. I'm going to remove 49. Okay? So on the face of my balance sheet, because I've already laid out my balance sheet, this is easy for me to do. Held for sale, I remove 49. So strictly speaking, I am going to also remove the inventory as well. So note number 6, yeah, I will remove the held for sale inventory, and so I'm going to remove the held for sale inventory of 18. Ka-ching! Another mark. Ka-ching! Another mark. Yeah? So I'm removing the PPE and I'm removing the held for sale. Strictly speaking, I guess you should also remove the liability as well, because we have a held for sale liability. We have a held for sale liability, so we remove the liability at 3, yeah, because of note number 6. Ching, another mark. What we have is a disposal group of assets. What we have is a disposal group of assets. What we have is a bunch of assets that were in the books. We have a bunch of assets that were in the books at 50. We have a bunch of assets that were in the books at 67. We've just written down them by 34. So we are left with a bunch of assets at 33, and we're left with a liability that is held for sale of 3. And that explains, yeah, that we've written the assets down to the fair value less cost to sell. One more time, this is the last mark. We're writing the assets down by 34. So the assets, which are 67, are being written down by 34. So our held for sale assets are 33. We also have a held for sale liability of 3. So I've removed everything. I've removed. But now I need to bring in 33 and 3. So I have a held for sale liability. I have a held for sale liability of 3. I know it's a bit silly. I'm just being a bit technically correct. Remove the liability and then show it as a liability. But it is a held for sale liability. That's the point. All right? And then in my assets, I probably haven't quite got the space to do this, but in my assets, yeah, I would have a held for sale assets, and my held for sale assets are 33. So sometimes that's positioned between your non-current assets and your current assets, but it's okay to show it underneath current assets. They're held for, the point is they are not part of non-current assets. The user knows these non-current, these held for sale assets are about to be sold. There were 5 marks available for sorting out note number 6. There were 5 marks available for sorting out the held for sale. I would suggest to you there is 1 mark for dealing with the write-down, 1 mark for removing the PPE, 1 mark for removing the inventory, 1 mark for removing the liability, and 1 mark for bringing in the held for sale. 5 marks. Loss, remove, bring in. Yeah? So you know in your guts whether you're going to get 0 out of 5 because you didn't know what the hell was going on, or whether you're going to get 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. I would hope most of you would get at least 3 out of 5. I would hope most of you would have worked out the loss. To me that's quite straightforward, and charged it to retained earnings. I hope most of you would have removed the PPE, yeah, and I hope remove the inventory and payables, in which case you're really home and dry. Then just bring in, yeah, the held for sale disposal group. Assets and liabilities tend to be shown separately, so that's why, yeah, you have held for sale liabilities, which I know sounds a bit weird. Last one. Last one. Is the worst one. Ha! And yet it shouldn't be the worst one, because it is to do with the associate, and it's to do with Putin, or Putin, or I don't know how you say these things. It's to do with Put, and this, we said, was worth 4 marks. Okay? In the exam, I give you permission to miss one of these out. You know, you do the extra bits in the order that you find them easiest, and when you're dealing with the most difficult one, if you don't really know what's going on, move on, get on with the ethics, get on with part B, get on with the rest of the question. Don't get obsessed. Putin, Mini has acquired 14% of Putin in December 10 for 18 million. This was accounted for as fair value through OCI. It's acquired an additional 16%, and when it bought the extra 16%, it paid 27 million. And this means that it has achieved significant influence. We buy 14%, then we buy it 16%, and then we get significant influence. So that is in June 12. The value of the 14% is 21, profits are 20, profits are 30. Oh, God. And then we receive a dividend of 2, which has been credited to other components of equity. My head is hurting. Four marks. I always thought associates should be easy. If we've received a dividend of 2, should we take that to other components of equity? No! We should not take that to other components of equity. So one of the things that we can do is, if we have received a dividend of 2 and the question tells us that that dividend of 2 has been taken to other components of equity, well, one of the things we can do is take it out of other components of equity, and that would be a healthy thing to do, and that would be earning us a mark, I'm sure. Yeah? So because of note number 4, we can remove the dividend. Yeah? We can remove the dividend. And this is not to do with other components of equity. This is marks in note number 4. We can remove the dividend, and the dividend is 2. If I am Mini as an individual parent company, if I am Mini and I receive a dividend, I shouldn't take that to other components of equity. Where should I take dividends received? Yeah, retained earnings. So, yeah, you remove it from other components of equity and you bring it in to retained earnings. So, dividend received, you bring it in at 2. Now, I personally would be tempted to leave it there. You know, if you wanted a working, then we have effectively done that. But yeah, we applied it straight away. But we've reduced, yeah, working, yeah, as a parent company. Yeah, we have done that adjustment. We've processed it already.